Today I was watching, somebody sent me a video, and I was and I appreciate the video of this particular pastor. I think this pastor is amazing. I think he tends to be balanced in his teachings. However, the video that was sent to me, the pastor was talking about, God is getting ready to do a new thing. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, that woke something up in me. And it almost like made me feel some type of way, because I was like, man, like, you've been in the preaching game for like over 20 years, and you're still talking about God is doing a new thing. So I asked Kay, I was like, hey, I want to ask you something. And I'm asking because I really want to filter, right? I want to filter this thought that I'm having. I was like, if everything already is, right? And if everything is already done the way that they teach us and all that kind of stuff like that, why are we saying that God is doing a new thing, right? And I just kind of feel, this just me personally. I mean, like, if you've been in church for over 10 years and you're still talking about God is doing a new thing, I'm not vibing with it. And so I also want to be kind to the process. I want to be kind to the conversation. And I definitely understand that if the individual is a novice or a neophyte, right, there's just certain things that we probably need to articulate to kind of help people grow and evolve. But I mean, how long will we be on milk? That's more or less like my whole process. And I just kind of think that whole concept of, for individuals who've been in church for over 10 years, that God is doing a new thing is so dated and antiquated. Everything already is. I think I even mentioned that Jesus said that, don't say that the harvest has not yet come. He said it is already here. And so for me, it's this elevated type of, I guess, thinking that needs to kind of take place, this level of critical thinking that needs to take place, that everything starts in the mind, right? Everything already is. The chairs that we sit in, the cars that we drive, it was in the mind of somebody until that individual brought it to fruition, if that makes sense. What do you think?
Man, this is a very deep conversation, and I do agree to a certain extent that critical thinking and mindset really has to be addressed. As you were speaking, believe it or not, what was on my mind went all the way back to the Garden of Eden and creation. Mm-hmm. And when God created Adam, everything that to reproduce was within Adam. Everything Adam ever needed was in Adam. When a woman has a baby, right, whether it's a boy or a girl, from the time they take not even have to take their first breath, from the time they are conceived in the womb, greatness and potential has already existed for them to do whatever. So they have at an early stage, or from the creation stage, everything they need to be who and what they want to be. Now, where there may be failure or challenge is, one, how it's cultivated, mm-hmm. to the environment or the womb in which that cultivation happens. But everything new, like Jesus said, put it this way, after he created everything, he said, it is finished. Right. It's done. Right. It's a wrap. And so I think what happens is, and again, having been a pastor, I want to be fair to the process. To say God is doing a new thing is not necessarily false, in the sense that God has already done it, mm-hmm. but it may be new in the sense that it's now being manifested to you, or you are now becoming aware of something. Right. I had a situation last week that I was dealing with, a real life situation that, to be fair and honest, it was causing a great deal of stress. And one conversation changed changed everything for the good. And the truth of the matter is, I could have had that conversation 2 weeks ago, a month ago. The information and the quote unquote, like the church would say, deliverance already existed. I just didn't know it existed. Right. So I got new information, mm-hmm. but what was done wasn't new, because I'm sure it was done for other people before me. Right. And I think that that's, for me,
for me, that it is that whole concept of growing in my thinking, or being elevated in my thinking, wherein, Alexis, is it really a new thing, or is it something already existed that you wasn't aware of? And because, you didn't take those steps, you even had brought up when I asked you about it, you was like, well, then it makes more sense when Jesus said, knock, ask, seek, right? And so if I'm not knocking, if I'm not asking, if I'm not seeking, then I don't know what I'm thinking is a new thing. I don't know that it already exists, because I'm not taking those steps. I'm not moving in that vibration or that direction to get whatever it is that I think I need, whether it's trying to get information to get a business, whether it's trying to get information to get a job, or whatever it is. And I think sometimes, for me, in my church experience, it has been this thing where they create this thing about God, like, oh my God, I can't. And it's like, no, because if I believe the way I say I believe, and I've grown to a certain place, then I should already have that expectation. Or if I don't know consciously to have that expectation, that when something happens, that this thing already existed for me, and technically it was waiting on me because it was already there, if that makes sense.
It does. I like what you just said about Jesus. He said, ask, seek, and knock. He to ask is, you don't know the scripture, but what's interesting is, why would he tell you to ask, seek, and knock for something that didn't exist already?
Wow.
It wouldn't make any sense. He knew what you were looking for already existed, right?
Right.
I think there are two words that we use interchangeably. One is from a church place, and more is from a higher solar place, right? The church used the word revelation.
Right.
Well, a revelation is only a revealing of something that already existed. Then others will use manifestation. And sometimes we use them, and manifestation is just a revealing of something that already existed. Now, we can use them interchangeably. So watch this. God can actually reveal something to you, but it's still not manifested yet.
Right.
He can say, okay, Alexis, I see you teaching at the Essen Festival, and I'm going to lead you there. He's revealed his purpose or his thought for you, but it hasn't manifested yet. Right. So God doesn't give information without expectation. Right. That's why he said he declares the ending from the beginning. It was done when he spoke it.
Right.
And we get so I think sometimes in the church culture we get so excited about the revelation that we don't understand the work for the manifestation. Right. And then we say, God didn't say it, the devil must be against me, the whole bit. No, there is a process from revelation to manifestation, right? Watch this now. He told, man, you made me feel like I'm preaching again. Right? He told Noah, he said, build thee an ark. He didn't say, build me one. Right? He said, build thee an ark. That is the revelation. Right. If you read the text carefully and continue to read, the Bible said that the ark was 100 years in building. So I got the revelation today. Noah got the revelation, but he didn't get the manifestation for 100 years. Right. And so we lack immaturity. We lack patience. We lack discipline. And then we want to think that you know what, it actually, and I've been a victim of this myself. We think that God has turned his back on us, or your faith is weak. And maybe it is in the sense that or maybe it's just the understanding that, okay, from the time something is, it's like this. You have a child and you say, listen, you know what? If you bring me A's and B's on your report card, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get you those new Jordans. Right? There's new information revealed to the child. There is a new expectation revealed for the child. But whether he receives the manifestation or not is based on what he does in between. Right. But then that also speaks to when the text says, faith without works is dead. Agreed. Absolutely. And I think I heard you speak one time before, not too long ago, and you were talking about people have to stop. We either blaming God or we blaming the devil. But what we do that is so that we don't have to take accountability for our actions, right? We've got to do something. You know what? I heard you say something talk about the devil don't want your car. He ain't got no and it's true. You know what? Here is the deal. One thing I think one of the beautiful things about living in America is you can get anything you want. Anybody can, if you have the right circumstances, right? However, there are rules to the circumstances, and when you violate the rules, then there are consequences.
Right.
Some can call it karma, but it's the same thing. What goes around comes back around, right? So here's the deal. I could have a 700 beacon score. Watch, I love this. People, oh, God bless me with a house. I get it. But the truth of the matter is, there is a home buying process in the world that we live in, at least in America.
Right.
It requires at least 2 years of stable employment. It requires X amount of income based on what you're trying to buy for a home. It requires X amount of credit to do that, and normally X amount of down payment.
Right.
If you put those 4 things in place, everybody can buy a house.
Right. Right. Right.
That's not a blessing in the sense it is the normal.
Right. Right.
But again, coming from our background, a lot of us was challenged. A lot of us, prior generation, we didn't have education and knowledge about the natural system.
Right.
Because that's why, watch this. That's why Jesus always, the Bible says, watch this. He said, that which is natural comes first. Then that's what's spiritual. And we try to make everything spiritual.
Right.
Because you can go into the daggone, you be behind on your rent and go in the landlord's office and shout and jump and all you want to. You still getting evicted. You still getting evicted.
Right.
And it's not because that person might not be moved in the spirit or have compassion on your situation, but the structure and the system within they have to work and confine in still take precedent. Because guess what? Watch this. There are certain, you take the law of gravity. What goes up must come down. That is a universal law that God created, right? We defy that law by the law of science by taking a plane with engine and thrust and all the different aspects of that kind of science and put a plane in the air. And you can fly at 30,000 feet from point A to point B. But guess what? If them engines go out in that plane, the prevailing law is still gravity. That plane is coming down.
Right. Right.
And you can show all you want to. You coming down. You're going to be unalive. You're going to be dead.
You're going to be unalive.
So again, I don't want to take but I think that's really, it's the misconception of the work between revelation and manifestation. The revelation is God revealing to you information, but it already existed. Now that you have the information, you have to literally, like you said, do the work, the revelation, do the work to produce the manifestation. And in that period is a spirit of, is a matter of time. They talked about, they were prophesying Jesus hundreds of years before he ever manifested. In fact, if you read your text carefully, most people that prophesied Jesus never saw him. They were dead and gone long before he ever came. Didn't make the word any less true.
Right.
Martin Luther King said, I had a dream.
Right.
It manifested. Martin didn't live long enough to see it. But guess what? His dream is still unfolding because everything is not as he should or as he dreamed it yet.
Right.
We've come a long way. But the fullness of the manifestation of his dream hasn't answered yet. So I hope I answered your question and gave some.
I think for me, and I am in no way trying to tell anybody that they should not believe that God is doing a new thing, because and being kind to the process and being kind to, where people need to get it and understand it on the level that they're on. However, for me, being on this path and taking in many ways a different approach of how I want to exist, I just kind of think for me, I just kind of felt like y'all was preaching this 20 years ago, or you was preaching this 25 years ago. And I just kind of thought it was a very, just, man, like, we still on that. Like, God.